Hello and welcome to the Granger podcast. I am your host, Kirk Bjorlin, City Administrator. On this podcast, we'll provide current updates on businesses, schools, public interest projects, and more. Today, we have a great interview for you, but first, we'll jump right into community updates. A couple of community updates for you this week. The Granger Community Public Election Forum will be held October 22nd, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Granger Community Center. Come and meet your candidates for mayor and council. Come and get to know them and ask questions. Again, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Granger Community Center on October 22nd. The Iowa Department of Transportation will be holding a public information forum October 29th from 5:30 to 7 p.m., again at the Granger Community Center. This is to discuss the future of connectivity from Highway 17 down to 102nd through the interchange, and then also to look at what is the future connectivity east of there, down by the orchard. How do you connect over to Twin Eagles, have the north and south side? What's driving this study is to have some future planning, strategic planning, for future transportation of Granger, but it's projected, Iowa Department of Transportation, that in 2050, we will be seeing as much traffic on Highway 17 as we're seeing on Highway 141. So that is communities growing around us and commuter traffic. So we're looking at long-term planning. What does that look like? Highway 17, Highway 141 interchange. And then further east, is there a crossover? Is there a bridge to connect the east side of Twin Eagles and down by the orchard? So those are your community updates. Thank you and have a great day.
When you really look at our three-phase plan, that is about a 10-year plan. It would include adding facilities for baseball and softball in the northeast corner of our property. And so I think, as we've talked and worked in collaboration with the city, thinking about shared parking spaces in relation to green space and activity space, I just have really been excited about the collaboration we've had over the last 3 years, sort of visioning around that space and really providing a great area for our youth in the community and just the community at large.
This is Kirk Bjorlin. Today we're here with Mark Lane, Superintendent of Woodward Granger Schools. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Kirk, thank you for the invitation. Excited to visit a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of exciting things happening with the school district and building a new school here in Granger. Let's head right into that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very busy summer with our middle school project. We broke ground around spring break in the spring and really have had great progress. And so watching the walls go up at our new middle school has really been exciting here in town. We had one of the wettest Julys in Iowa's history, and we were really appreciative of our on-site crews, and they really I guess I would say they were very agile with weather and kept progressing as they could, and we remain on schedule.
Right.
A year from now, as we enter into the 2026 school year, we would expect to open the middle school to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders here in Granger. So great progress happening there.
Good. And for those who are joining us, we also are doing construction with the announcement of the new school coming. The city stepped up and we're paving Sycamore Street. With the rain that we've had over the summer and into the fall, we've had a few disruptions,
Sure.
A few utility conflicts, but we should be heading in and paving latter part, beginning of October, and should get paving done. And they're going to pave the main strips first and go back and do the intersections and do the roundabout. So we're excited for that area. With the school coming in, it also kind of launches that part of town. We're excited with the community for that area of the
No, I really noticed that a couple of weeks ago. I had been out there and went out to just take some pictures of the building, and you can really start to see the whole footprint of that area starting to take shape with the extension of Sycamore and where the roundabout will be that would enter into the building to our property on the south end. So it's exciting to get out there and to just see what will be
Right.
And I agree. I think it will really become an exciting area for our community.
Yeah, it's also exciting. The city will be having a trail from the current elementary
Hmm.
school that will head up by the community center and across Oxley Creek and by the community center. And then we'll have a 10-foot trail that runs all the way up to the
Hmm.
school system. So we're excited. We're focusing on that area as well. We'd like to, we have a business park and a land use plan off to the west of that.
Hmm.
So for those listeners who aren't familiar with that area, we're just north of town off of Sycamore Street. So if you enter into town at Casey's and head straight north, you'll head up to the new school. And we're excited, bring the walking trail up there,
Hmm.
get some walkability. If it's up to me, we're going to be putting some pressure on you to grow. We have some economic plans to help with that, and so we're excited for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I was impressed with when I came here several years ago was just noticing at our elementary building the number of walkers and bikers that we have to school. I think, sometimes people think kids don't walk and bike to school anymore, but we really typically have almost 50 bikes at our elementary building every day and bike racks. And so I think just adding that ability for kids to that future middle school to be able to walk and bike to school. We have kids that take advantage of the trail system now, and to extend upon that to other schools, I think will be a great thing.
Yeah, what our plan is we want to make sure that we have walkability within the city with Fairway coming in. We're excited that trail could connect up to that part of the community. We're also excited that we may, kind of some preliminary plans, we may come in and push a trail up through Greenland's new development on the east side of the school. May not be a 10-foot trail, but we're working with a developer to widen the sidewalk somewhat so that in the future, as the school expands, we have two trails entering in. One on the west and then one on the southeast side.
Yeah, that's great. And, that was one of the things that made that particular property attractive to us was just thinking about walkability and the ability for, kids to walk and bike to school and have really that neighborhood, vibrant community feel around a school.
Great. Yeah. Another exciting project with the city partnering with the school, we did purchase from the Finnestead family 26 acres just north of the school. So here shortly, we plan on doing some grading and flatten that location so we can get some grass planted, and hopefully by fall of next year, be using that some. But we look forward to the future. What can we do in that area? Be a long-term plan to put in athletic facilities, park area, parking, and most likely some type of building in our long-range plan. But we look forward to partnering with you as the school expands in that area also.
Yes, and as we look at our 50 acres just south of the 26 that the city now owns, we're really looking at a 3-phase project. So this first phase is really opening that middle school building and having that middle school footprint. We'll also have some green space for middle school football and outdoor sports practices. But when you really look at our 3-phase plan, that is about a 10-year plan. It would include adding facilities for baseball and softball in the northeast corner of our property. And so I think, as we've talked and worked in collaboration with the city, thinking about shared parking spaces in relation to green space and activity space, I just have really been excited about the collaboration we've had over the last 3 years, sort of visioning around that space and really providing a great area for our youth in the community and just the community at large.
Let's expand upon those phases. So what's growth look like? What are the numbers like currently? And what do you anticipate future growth to look
so
like?
we really look back to about the early 2000s in our growth. And back in 2010, we were a district of about 850 students. Last year, we were a district of 1,150 students. Yeah. And so over that 15-year span, we've really seen, a growth. Our pattern has been about 2.5% growth annually. Okay. My first year in the district, that was a year where we really saw a significant bump. We grew by 47 students that year, and that was a 4.5% growth. we're seeing, a likely increase similar to what we've experienced this year. A lot of it just has to do with Granger and Woodward being young communities.
Yep.
And so we graduate classes, and we're getting sort of on the tail end. So our graduating class last year was 56 students. And the kindergarten that came in this year is in the mid 90s.
Okay.
And so, we're starting to see, though, our current senior class this year is a class that's over 80. Now, the class below them, that junior class, is back in the upper 60s.
Okay.
But really, our largest class in the entire district right now is currently in 7th grade. That's 104 students. But we've really seen that average class size go from about the mid 60s to more like the mid 80s over the last 10 years. And, I would anticipate that growth rate, we project out to 2035, and we've really got trend lines at about 2% to 3% growth. And that would push us to 2035 to a district of about 1,500 students.
Okay.
And so that's almost doubling in size over a 25-year period. And so we've really had a lot of conversation internally about preparation for the future and thinking about how do we continue to serve our students well. Increasing enrollment is it's a challenge, but I'd prefer that challenge to declining enrollment. And so, when we think about increasing enrollment, we're thinking about maintaining desirable class sizes. We're thinking about adding programs. I would say in the last 5 to 6 years, we've added probably about 10 different types of concurrent enrollment or AP, advanced placement types of courses at the high school level. And so our kids every year are having more and more opportunities to earn DMAC credit for free. And so they're graduating with college credit. They're having high level experiences like AP courses for the first time ever. This year, we've identified a portion of one of our high school teachers' jobs is a work-based learning coordinator.
Okay.
There's a high level of desire around the state to really increase apprenticeships and work-based learning experiences. And, we're not as large of a school district where we can dedicate a full FTE to work-based learning.
Right.
But we did dedicate 25% of one of our high school teachers' days to being a work-based learning coordinator. And in the last few years, we've also added a program called Jobs for America's Graduates.
Okay.
That's a national program that is really based on getting kids work-based learning experiences, connecting with community, getting kids in apprenticeships, and really career-oriented learning experiences. And so those are the kinds of things we're looking to grow and continue to add as we see that enrollment. But then we also need to keep up with facilities.
Correct.
So, we're thinking about obviously the new middle school, but really the vision for that campus is that, when the time would come over the next 10 to 12 years, that in 2 more phases, that would become our high school campus.
Yep.
And then the campus in Woodward would transition back to a middle school campus.
Good. So a couple questions. One will be, what do you see as an influx, or are you inputting more students than are open enrolling out?
Mm-hmm.
What's that look like for the school district?
We have an annual goal where we want to see a net. We want to see a positive net in open enrollment. And really over the last 5 years, we have fluctuated at basically kind of a zero sum, about the same number open enrolling in that open enroll out. And so we have years where our net open enrollment has been as high as plus 15 to 20. And then we have net years where we've seen open enrollment where maybe we're down 5 to 10. And so, what we typically see is our largest open enrolled out numbers go to Dallas Center Grimes or Johnston. And then our largest open enrolled in numbers come from Perry and Madrid. Okay. And so, I think open enrollment has long been a standard school or a parent choice option in Iowa. So open enrollment's not a new thing, but it has just always been there as a way where people have an option to look to maybe a neighboring district. And so when I talk with people about open enrollment, I think, one of the things that really stands out to me is the idea of opportunity. And I think sometimes there's a perception of, more opportunity comes with size.
Yep.
And so when people are maybe looking for certain opportunities, what we see with open enroll out is to two larger districts, right? Dallas Center, Grimes, and Johnston.
Yep.
And when we see open enrollment in, maybe people perceive that we offer different opportunities. And so I think it's just all around what parents see as a fit for their children.
Right.
And really, I think, as you look at the Des Moines Metro, Woodward Granger is really in a unique position. As I think about sort of that circle around Des Moines, if you go 45 minutes from the Capitol building, right, there's lots of different school districts. When you think about a district that is about 80 to 100 kids per grade, there's really two. There's Woodward Granger and Van Meter. And, everywhere else that used to be that size, Bondurant Farrar, Ballard of Huxley, North Polk, they've really exploded in growth. Dallas Center Grimes, it's now equivalent to size in Urbandale.
Yeah.
And people, I don't think they necessarily perceive that.
Right.
But we see a lot of families, and I'm sure you talk with people too, maybe they grew up in rural Iowa, but they're finding employment in the Des Moines area.
Yep.
And they desire a community and a school that feels like where they went to school.
Right.
I grew up in Jefferson, Iowa. I graduated with 76 people. If somebody's like me and they want their children to have a community feel and a school feel similar to that, like Woodward Granger is the perfect place.
Yep.
And kids can have great opportunities. They can participate in every sport. If they want to be an athlete and a musician, they can do both.
Right.
And we really encourage kids to participate at a high level. And we see really, really high participation. Almost 85 to 90% of our kids annually are engaged in at least one extracurricular activity, and most of them more than one.
Right. One of the things we deal with the city is that pushback on we don't want to grow, we want to stay the same.
Yeah.
One of the difficult challenges of that, though, is the school system nor the city own the land. So our philosophy with the city is the growth is coming. We're not going to stop it. What we want to do is be at the table and encourage it, put a strategic plan in place. We have our land use plan in place, and we're working with developers now. I see our position as the city somewhat as the sales arm for the school district. We need to, for the bonding that has been passed and for the new construction of the school, we need to bring commercial businesses in. We need to bring students in. We need to bring new housing in. So moving into the future, it'll be important for us to collaborate together, for the school system and for you and your board to be aware, what does the city have planned? Who are we talking to? What developments are coming in? We're working on that. We have several housing projects that are at the kind of the platting stage. So it'll be key for us in the future to stay connected. We're not trying to grow and become the next West Des Moines, but we know the growth is coming. We've done a tremendous amount of voluntary annexation. A lot of local farmers got involved, longtime Granger residents, and said, hey, we want to be a part of what's happening. We want to be a part of the planning. So a lot of exciting things happening coming up in the future. It'll be key for us to stay in touch. I would like to be putting pressure on you to say you need to expand because here's what's coming.
Yeah.
That'll be two things. One will be students, and it'll be property tax for both the city and the school.
No, and that, this is the start of my fourth year with the district, and one of the things that I have really enjoyed is really open lines of communication and positive relationships between the school district and our city leaders. Mayor Folkerts in Woodward, we've been working. We recently purchased some land in Woodward in order to accommodate more parking for activities in Woodward, and we know we put a strain as a growing school district. We've put a strain over the years on parking for different types of events, and we were really excited to be able to expand parking this year at Hawk Stadium for football, and really appreciate Mayor Folkert's support and law enforcement support, and Chief Cox too. He comes up and helps us with parking for football events, and And so we just have awesome city support, and
Right.
and you and Tony have been great communicators here around just what are the potential areas. And I think one of the when we think about the future, one of the best predictors of the future is the past.
Yeah.
And as Woodward Granger, we can look around the metro and we can see, what types of things are likely coming our way. When I got this job, one of the first phone calls I made was to a gentleman named Dave Wilkerson, who was a longtime associate superintendent and then superintendent in Waukee in the 90s and into
Yep.
the early 2000s. And I called, and I had worked in Waukee as a school counselor during that time. And I called Dave and said, Dave, I got the Woodward Granger superintendent position, and I really think you and I need to sit down together and we need to talk about what were you and Dr. Stocker. Ronnie Stocker was a wonderful superintendent at that time in the mid-90s, in early 2000s in Waukee, and just sat down and listened to Dave talk about, what were they doing in preparation for that growth.
Right.
It's coming, and so how do you manage it? How do you work with your city partners like us? What Waukee schools, they cover, they have to work with the city of Urbandale, the city of Waukee, the city of West Des Moines.
Right.
Their district boundary crosses several city boundaries, and we've got that same situation. And so we know from the past around the Des Moines Metro what's headed this
Yep.
way.
Yep.
And I really think, both of our communities and folks are trying to manage that and be
Yep.
thoughtful about what do we want the future of our school district and our communities to look like.
Right. And I think we have pretty good examples coming up the west side. Now, I often say, we're going to grow. We're not going to grow at the percentage that Grimes did,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to grow at a percentage. We have Johnston, who's coming up on the east side and
Mhm.
is expanding and doing some housing things and some projects on this north side. Grimes is continuing to spread west. And we're seeing a lot of economic development inquiries.
Mhm.
They're not saying yes yet. But for those of saying, when's Quick Star coming? We're talking to them all. They're not saying yes yet, but they're also not saying no.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on that. One of the things I want to kind of throw out on the table that we've had a long, probably a 2-year working relationship at the table with Department of Transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And Highway 141 continues to expand. With the new school coming, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to safety. There are traffic signals at 190th and
Mhm.
coming in on State. There aren't traffic signals at Sycamore. So we'll want to coordinate
Mhm.
that. DOT is not going to do anything and recommend changes for anything west of Highway 17. So I want to kind of put that to rest, that we're
Mhm.
not closing intersections. However, we do need to be aware that 190th is signaled and Sycamore is not. When you have young drivers and
Mhm.
others coming in and parents and a lot of activities, we'll want to coordinate that. And we would like to encourage people to go to 190th and come down State
Mhm.
and head up to the school.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I know. I think that's something that just an example of talking about traffic flow and people driving. One of the things that's an opportunity that I have is when a student wants to get a school permit, they have to go through me. I have to sign off on a paper with them. And so I require that they come in person with a parent, and we sit down together and we talk about the law talks about they have to drive on their most direct route to school.
okay.
And we are in an area that is a high traffic area, and it
Yep.
can be a dangerous area. And so that's just something I feel a responsibility to have conversation with each of our new drivers about is what's a direct route to school? What's a safe route to school? How do you handle your phone in the car?
Correct.
What do you do with people in the car? And so that communication with our young drivers is really critical. We also have staff coming to work and leaving from work every day. And so,
Yes.
just thinking about how do we manage good traffic flow and how do we make sure that we're providing safe routes to school is something that we're thinking about all the time.
Yeah, we do see the future. There are current plans for getting access to the school, probably from Wendover, in that
Mhm.
we have a business park kind of land use and the Reader 174 acres over there, and then
Yeah.
across the Kurt Todd property. We do see that area in the future, being a mixed use, being housing, having some commercial in the business park. But for the short term, our access will be Sycamore Street and 190th coming up state. So we'll want to coordinate that and get information out. Also, we'll be working with Chief Cox and his team to kind of help guide. When we have activities, we have put the roundabout in at Sycamore. DOT was pushing those, and we've embraced that. Not everybody is excited about the roundabout that's on Highway 17, but I can tell you it has slowed traffic down, and there is good continuous flow. We've done the same thing heading up Sycamore, where we have a roundabout. There will be 3 sides to it currently, which will be the north and south, and then you can also head east into the school. The west will be extended at a future time.
I think the 17 roundabout is wonderful. When I first arrived in the district that summer, I remember I think in the first month I was in the district, there were 2 pretty significant accidents there. At least one required life flight. And what I have experienced and what I've seen as somebody who drives through that area frequently and works here in Granger, I think it has really done what it was intended to accomplish in those conversations we had with the DOT. And I'm just really appreciative of what they did there, primarily because of its proximity to our elementary and ELC. We send buses through that roundabout every single morning and every afternoon, getting students out to Twin Eagles and the other eastern parts of the school district. And so I'm a big fan of the 17 roundabout.
Good. The exciting thing is DOT, when we were talking about that location, they took like a 8x10 map, kind of like a rug, and took it into the schools. And it was interesting. The elementary kids picked up on it pretty quick. Look left, proceed. Look left, proceed. And it was interesting that they said we didn't have that same implementation with adults our age. It was like, wait a minute, I don't like this. But the elementary kids picked up on it pretty quick. So I'm hoping moving into the future with our school district and the roundabouts that we have here in the community that works out well.
I think it's great.
Good. Anything, let's kind of circle back on facilities. Completion date, what are you looking at on?
So our latest communication in with our construction management firm, Story Construction, is we're on target to start to take possession in July. I think it will be designated spaces. We'll probably have a 2-phase possession, but that really is targeting also then our capacity to have access to the building as we receive furniture and fixtures and things like that. And so, I was a little worried as we progressed through the summer with weather that might, we might be taking possession right before the first day of school. But right now we're on target to be able to get more of a intentional and staged possession of the building and move in. And then we would, look to do a grand opening in ribbon cutting in August. And then I think most likely, while we haven't set a calendar, we know some parameters around when school can start. I would think probably our first day of school will be August 26th, 2026, and would welcome students into a new building on that day. Other things that are on the horizon, in November on the ballot, we will have a physical plant and equipment levy ballot measure. The physical plant and equipment levy is it's $1.34 of levy that can go on the school tax that is earmarked and specifically categorically designed for facility improvements and maintenance. You can buy school buses, but it cannot be used for teacher salary. It can't be used for curriculum materials. It really is about facilities upkeep and growth. So Woodward Granger voters first implemented a voter-approved PEPL at the beginning of the 2007-2008 school year. And so at that time, the voters said yes to $1.34 of our total tax levy going towards PEPL funding. When you initiate that PEPL, voter-approved PEPL, it's for a 10-year period. And so voters did again then renew the PEPL. The vote was taken in 2016. To extend that through 2028, and so our current PEPL would be set to expire at the end of fiscal 28, and so we're taking steps here in November to ask voters to extend that for another 10 years, and so we're really we're hopeful and have strong support and indicators that people support that. Because that right now generates a little bit over $700,000 annually that we can put into. So, projects that people may have noticed the last couple of years, over the last 2 summers, we've replaced 2 parking lots. So 2 summers ago, we redid the whole front parking lot at the ELC here in Granger.
Yep.
This past summer, we redid the whole main entry parking lot in Woodward. 2 great improvements just to we increased parking space here at the ELC. We didn't increase any parking space in Woodward, but just the front of the building, it really dressed up and really makes the building look nice. This is also money. 2 summers ago, we spent about $75,000 improving the heating and cooling system here in Granger at the ELC. And so it's just really essential to us to have that source of funding that's designated specifically to facilities maintenance and upkeep. Things that we would look to in the future. We really need to resurface our track at Hawk Stadium in Woodward. We're having conversation around potentially coupling that with turfing that field.
Okay.
One of the things that our community has asked us to do, and they've been really proactive in communicating with us over the last 2 years, is a number of years ago, people in the community started a youth soccer program.
Right.
And that has really been a great benefit to our community. Well, the sort of the first kids that were involved in youth soccer are approaching high school. And so even 2 years ago, that group reached out and started talking with me. And at the time, Matt Icorn was our activities director about, when would we potentially add a soccer program?
Right.
And so one of the challenges we have is right now we don't have anywhere to hold home soccer games.
Yes.
One of the conversations we've had is, do we rent space down in Grimes at their turfed area that they've put in? Ideally, we would want to host our own soccer games on our facility. And so, turfing Hawk Stadium would be an option that would allow us to hold our own home soccer games. It would also then just be, another space that is just a community use space for a lot of different activities, and would reduce our bills for watering it and painting it and maintaining it over time too.
Yes.
And then we'd also like to do some improvements with the auditorium in Woodward. We need to do new lights and sound. And so it's just, it's all about maintaining those really high quality facilities for kids. And so that PEPL vote is just an essential part of continuing to be able to plan for that into the future.
Right. Good. Exciting. Let's kind of, as we begin to wrap up here, what can people expect for facilities that are being constructed with the new school here in Granger? So starting on the, as you enter and head up on Sycamore Street and you get to the roundabout, what to expect in this phase 1?
So phase 1, we will open next year, and that building will have classroom space for between 350 and 400 students.
In which age groups?
And it will be grades 6, 7, and 8. So we'll move the middle school students out of Woodward and move them into their own unique facility down here in Granger. The day the building opens, it will also then have what I would say is a middle school appropriate gym. Okay. It will have seating for about 500, and a wood floor, whatever it would be. It would be legal competition size gym for high school sports. We won't play high school games there, but it will be a very nice gym. The building will also open with some of the infrastructure, like the production kitchen and the band and chorus room that are going to be there. Those are really built to serve when all 3 phases are done. So when all 3 phases are done, you would see a footprint that could house probably up to about 600 students. Okay. We'd add additional space for classrooms, but then we would, the things that we won't have on day 1 that are in the future plans are like a high school competition gym. We're envisioning a gym when we're ready to build that probably has a capacity up to 1,500.
Okay.
We're talking about a high school gym when this district is between 1,500 to 2,000 kids.
Okay.
And so, we won't have that next summer, but we know where it will be. The other things that would be in later phases would be an appropriate auditorium, again, a high school auditorium for plays and musicals and band concerts that, we very much fill our auditorium up in Woodward now for our plays and our auditoriums. And so I think right now our auditorium seats about 250.
Okay.
And so I would think we would probably want to double that
Right.
in the future. When we open next summer, we will have outdoor green space that would be middle school football practice specific. It'll have goalposts up. Will be a regulation football field. We will still play middle school football games up in Woodward because we won't have any seating or scoreboard or anything like that next summer. But we have, again, plans for a full-size football stadium, centralizing. Currently, our baseball field is here in Granger, and our softball field is up in Woodward. Our final plan on the 50 acres would consolidate baseball and softball into one location. And so when you really think about, maybe what you see in some of our neighboring districts like North Polk or Dallas or Grimes or Johnston, as people think about that comprehensive high school campus, we have that planned out and where all of that would fit and parking that would accommodate all of that.
Yep.
The other thing that I'd point out for next summer is, we really focused on good traffic flow. And so the other thing that will automatically be there is our bus drop-off. So buses will come in and have a completely separate drop-off from just, parent drop-off and things in the front of the building. There'll be a dedicated bus lane on the west side of the building that will come in and be a circle drive for only buses. No parent drop-off will happen in that area, just to increase the capacity for a good flow in and out of the property.
And that's on the northwest side,
right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're paving past that just to get, and then we'll still have paving and the concrete until you go into your north drive, which is a joint road that splits the property between the city and the school. And then we'll have some temporary parking after we do some grading, hopefully this fall. And then we'll have some temporary parking and then long-range planning. What do we do with that 26 acres to accommodate? So to kind of wrap this up, if individuals in the community and others say, well, why are we focused on growth? I think a key reason is we're feeling the growth at the school level. And how do you fund that? Well, we fund that mainly by property tax. Now, the wonderful thing about Granger is on the city level, we haven't incurred a lot of debt. We don't have a lot of upper end yet because our assessed valuation isn't growing enough. But we are primed with the land, we're primed with the infrastructure, we're primed with Highway 141 and 17 and a school district that is planning for growth. Again, we don't own the land, so it's not like we can stifle growth, but we're going to be at the table. I see my position, as an extension of the school that we need to be communicating, we need to be getting economic development and getting those things to the table. I feel pretty good about where the city is with infrastructure, with planning and land use and our sewer plant, and we've just finished a new water tower. We feel good about that growth. We kind of need to stomp on the gas and get that commercial going, get businesses of town and boost that assessed valuation and property tax so we both can grow as the community grows.
I agree 100% right. I think, I don't know who said this, but I always think, right, change happens gradually and suddenly.
Yeah.
That gradual change is exactly what, I think in your position, in my position, we see that gradual change. We hear those conversations that take 2 and 3 years to come to fruition, and then it can feel suddenly because a new building pops up or a new street is put in. And so, I think a huge part of a superintendent's job, especially in a district like ours, is thinking about 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah.
I feel like It's my job to inform our board and to keep our board informed about what's to come. And that's why enrollment projections and facility needs and having a strategic plan that we can really look back to and say, why are we doing what we're doing, and are we being planful about that, is really so critical. I think that's important for every school district, but when you know you're a growing district, it's even more important. And I so appreciate just the communication with our cities around new development and what might be coming, because really, the lifeblood of our school district is enrollment.
Yep.
Each student is worth a certain amount of money,
Yep.
and there's a property tax base behind each student.
Yep.
And Iowa school finance is a unique thing, and so I'll often talk with people about the idea of in Iowa there are property rich and property poor school districts. And that really has to do with the tax base behind each student,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And so, the example I give people is the most property-rich school district in the state of Iowa is Okoboji, the Okoboji Community School District. There's more tax base behind each individual student in that school district than any other school district in Iowa.
Right.
And so, the levy to produce the funds needed to run the district can be really low.
Yep.
And it takes other school districts that are maybe more property poor, it takes them a greater tax burden on each taxpayer to generate that same amount of funding.
Right. The exciting thing is I think the school board and the governing bodies, both the city and the school over time, we are well positioned, both in Woodward and in Granger. I think that both communities can embrace that, and I look forward to partnering together in the future as we both grow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And thanks for everything you do for the city and for our school district, Kirk.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Granger Podcast. Make sure to follow us on social media for updates on the next show, and we'll see you on the next episode. The Granger Podcast, empowering success and fueling growth.